Creatures of the dark, I implore you to explore what you have not yet explored, to find what might be uncomfortable to the natural eye, to see what is unseen to the general public, and watch in awe. This isn't Twilight Zone. This is internet interest. So we all know Sonic the Hedgehog, right? Classic platforming video games, very popular in the 90s, Sega's flagship franchise, duh. In September of '93, 2 cartoons released to capitalize on Sonic's success. Both made by none other than... Dick! These guys are responsible for the Super Mario Bros. Super Show, Inspector Gadget, and Heathcliff. Yeah, these shows are in good hands. Actually, believe it or not, these shows were pretty great. Well, one of them is at least. The first show, Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, is only good to me ironically. But the second show, simply titled Sonic the Hedgehog and affectionately titled by the fans, Sonic Sad AM, is fantastic in my opinion. It takes place in a darker world that Dr. Robotnik, the main series villain, has already won. This gives Sonic's rebellious attitude meaning, because this time he actually has something to rebel against. The show follows Sonic and his team of freedom fighters, Tails, Sally Acorn, Bunny Rabbit, Antoine, and Rotor as they fight against Dr. Robotnik and his servant Snively. About a year before the series began, a tie-in comic series was published by Archie Comics, popular for the Life with Archie series. The comic started as a light-hearted take on the cartoon setup, with goofy jokes and 90s cheese. However, everything changed when Sad AM came to an end. Season 2 ended with a cliffhanger where Snively was alluded to become the new series villain. However, due to low ratings, no thanks to Power Rangers sharing the same time slot, the show was cancelled and never continued. But there were the comics. The before campy comics soon became not just similar in tone to the show, but actually started getting darker. It tapped on subject matter very unfit for a comic about a blue hedgehog that runs fast, and honestly it seems to have lost its roots. Don't get me wrong, a lot of the comic was great, but you can tell it took itself a bit too serious at times. The biggest pusher of this, and in my opinion the main reason for this tonal shift, was none other than writer Ken Penders. Penders started writing for the comics as early as issue 11. He slowly became more and more of a leading influence on the comic taking a more serious tone, introducing more adult concepts into the comic. In this tweet, he laments over not being able to make a story about Sally losing her virginity. Yeah, a lot of the comic became more about soap opera shit than action. That stuff has its place in stories, but I don't know, I think Archie Sonic kinda overdid it. You see, before joining the Archie Sonic team, Penders wanted to make a comic about Native American scientists or something, but it never got made because no company wanted to publish it. Soon after working at Archie, however, he got put in charge of the new Knuckles miniseries, where he rapidly started introducing characters from this native scientist comic as Knuckles' family members. This led to Knuckles having a very extensive family tree. His absolute favorite character in the world, though, Ken Penders' Sonichu, if you will, would definitely have to be Laura Sue, Knuckles' daughter from the future. Well, that's his writing, but what about his art? Well, oh Jesus. Listen, I'm no one to judge. Some of his stuff looks good. He did a DVD cover for the Sad AM show and it looked pretty good, but I don't know, he just really overdoes the facial details sometimes, and it's pretty horrifying. Actually, I want to bring special attention to this horrifyingly covered comic, Sonic Live. This comic is about Sonic interacting with the real world. Whoa!
Sonic goes to the real world, dude.
It starts with Sonic infiltrating Robotnik's base. When Sonic dies. Yeah, Robotnik's swap bots literally fucking murder him. Cut to children! The literal next page after Sonic's gruesome death is home to live-action photos of some real-ass children. With horrible lighting, I might add. Yeah, you can tell the photos were taken with like a 90s disposable camera. I like to imagine Ken Penders himself taking the pictures with the kids, being like, "No, Billy, put emotion into it." Why am I talking? That's not how Ken talks. This is a weird comic. Sonic forcibly pulls the kids into the game world and then they go on a kooky adventure. The reason I bring this up is because it's part of Kenders' next big goof, a pitch video for a theatrical Archie Sonic movie. Yes, Kenneth the Penneth, with Ben Hurst, a writer from Sad AM and Sonic Underground, pitched a Sonic movie in 2003. It was actually supposed to be a follow-up to the Sad AM show, and get this, it's super gritty and it's called Sonic Armageddon! The story goes that Hurst wanted to continue the series after its cancellation, so he hit up Deke and they were down. Before he went to ask Sega, however, Penders' lovely self caught wind of this and suggested to pitch it as a theatrical film. So Penders took it upon himself to call Sega, and allegedly he told them not to go through with Hurst's Sad AM continuation, so then he pitched to them his own movie. Quite a few things were actually made for this pitch, believe it or not. He drew 4 pieces of concept art. I mean, look at this. Look at this poor bear being roboticized alive, screaming in agony. Like, holy shit, dude. So, he also made a pitch video for the movie, and, I really want to show this to you. So it starts with two kids, who I assume are the kids from Sonic Live. They're playing Sonic CD. You could hear this wonderfully read voiceover.
They said it was just a video game, but I knew better. After all, my dad's job was to search for life on other planets. Although many versions of the events he witnessed made their way out into the media, that was just security doing its job. Like, who could keep a secret that big, right? Anyway, this is what my dad said really happened.
So in this movie, Sonic is real, but its existence as a video game, cartoon, comic, etc. is also real, but loosely adapted. And also the kid's dad, who works in space travel, was there. What, was he just sitting in the background in Knot Hole Village watching Sonic the whole time? My dad works in the government, and he says Sonic's real, so you gotta listen to what I say. Whatever, this shit's stupid.
Whoa! This is way past cool!
So now you know the man. You might even know the myth. But now, allow me to tell you the legend. Around 2009, Penders started copywriting his characters, or at least characters he claimed to create, such as Laura Sue. Technically, he couldn't have full ownership as his characters are part of the larger Sonic Archie canon, but he managed to achieve some sort of ownership legally behind Archie's. I don't claim to have an iota of a clue how this works. Maybe I got the details wrong, but I do know that Archie eventually fired his ass. So he did as any level-headed guy would do. He sued Archie for using his characters. It should have been an easy win for Archie, but Penders' contracts were mysteriously missing. Hey man, I'm not throwing out any accusations of theft, but I'm pretty sure a competent company such as Archie, that's been around since 1939, knows how to keep track of documents, you know what I'm saying? Many of the nearly 200 characters no longer usable by Archie were integral to the plot, so the universe had to largely be reset in a huge cosmic event called the Super Genesis Wave. This retconned those characters out of lore and fundamentally changed the comic permanently. Honestly, I prefer the comic in its later years, but there was a fan base for this crazy shit that had been going on for nearly 20 years that will probably never get to see the story arcs of those characters completed proper. This insanely huge library of dead characters includes the likes of Aaron the Echidna, Centaur, Mary Ann, Mary Sue, Gary Stu, Barry Lou, Zack the Hedgehog, Tumbles the Stair Dragon, Laura Lee, Laura Sue, Leon Da, Star Trek Knuckles, Science Knuckles, Rasta Knuckles, Girl Knuckles, Robot Knuckles, Monocle Knuckles, and Fuckles. The Super Genesis Wave isn't all that happened as an aftermath of this, though. The court mandated both Archie and Sega, as well as any future company that tells stories in this franchise, the current example being IDW, to strictly follow a list of mandates to avoid further legal conflict. I shit you not, and I have no clue how this shit is legal. A lot of this restrains creativity, it restrains new things to be done with the franchise, and I have no clue how this is even allowed. This is actually a gross abuse of power. I'm gonna go through the list. No characters are allowed to have family, with the only exceptions being the characters already established, like Cream having a mom and Sonic having a Knuckle. None of Ken Penders' 199 characters are allowed to be used, which is understandable at the very least. This one brings my piss to a boil with how arbitrary it is. You can't use characters from this list of specific characters. Those characters are Metal Sonic's Metal Overlord form, Black Doom, and any of the original characters from Sonic Chronicles. I mean, I'm not saying Black Doom was the most interesting Sonic character in the world. His role in Shadow the Hedgehog was to be like, Shadow, bring me the 7 mystical cock rings. But like, that literally just stunts potentially great stories to be told with this obscure character. Also, Sonic Chronicles ended on a cliffhanger. I mean, it came out like 10 years ago, but there's your confirmation that there'll never be a sequel to this game. There's some other things like referencing the Sonic OVA, Sonic Underground, or Sonic X, or using Eggman Nega that Archie can only do if they ask Sega. That I can understand. I mean, I don't know why specifically Eggman Nega, but whatever. I'm gonna skip a few of these just because some are more fucking stupid than others. You can't reference the planet as Mobius. This is fucking horseshit because the planet Mobius is a fundamental part of both SatAM and Archie lore. You can go ahead and say it's because it's from the old cartoons, not the games or original, so it legally makes sense. But no, because the entire cast of SatAM is still a part of the comics up until the very end. Only one Metal Sonic can be seen at a time. He can't get cloned or anything like that. Specifically Metal Sonic for some reason. Sonic is no longer allowed to lose. Yeah, he can't fucking lose. He's legally forced to become a Gary Stu. Do not understand the creative crippling at play here. None of Sega's official Sonic characters are allowed to change their wardrobe for any period of time, no matter the context. This is the absolute worst. They are no longer allowed to make the video game characters, that means Sonic, Knuckles, Amy, tails, etc. Expressive. This is not elaborated on. The cartoon hedgehog is legally restricted from being too emotive. What the actual fuck? And moving on. In late 2008, Sega released a Sonic RPG on the DS developed by BioWare called Sonic Chronicles: The Dark Brotherhood. I haven't played it, but I hear it's kind of mediocre, and looking at it, I believe it. The thing that ties it into this story, however, is a character exclusive to this game. Shade the Echidna. Shade is an echidna, just like Knuckles. Knuckles is supposed to be the last of his kind, so meeting Shade is supposed to be a huge deal. So Ken Penders finds out about this character 2 years later, and decides that this whole female echidna that's not to call thing is his idea. So what do you think he does? He sues. He Laura sues. He sues EA, then he sues Sega again. It's a whole fucking ordeal. The trial ended in a stalemate and was settled out of court. So that was a complete timeline of all the goofiness, in broad strokes at least, of Ken Penders. It's sad that it's all over. There's so much about this that frustrates me. And I'm not personally a fan of his art, but he deep down is a fairly talented artist. Yes, dear viewer, this wild ride never ends, as good old Penders has much in store for his characters. He's currently working on a comic called the Lara Sue Chronicles, and it's fucking mortifying. It seems to be a revival of his old canceled Native American scientist comic from way back at the beginning of this tale. Penders is, of course, on Twitter these days, constantly talking shit about Archie and Sega, of course. I make this video to observe this man from afar, and that's what I hope to do with this series. I may have an opinion on the actions of these people I cover, and I'll gladly voice them, but it's never my intent to harass or witch hunt. I trust that you're mature enough to feel the same. That being said, thanks for tuning into the first episode of Internet Interest. I've been Sprited, and I'll soon see you on the next Mario Marathon. Toodles. Who the fuck says toodle?